Follow your gut. It's not just good advice. It's the purpose or why of the company co-founded by today's guest. Her story is an example that success starts from within, by finding your purpose. This film series is meant to help you do just that. At ForensisGroup, we solve problems by connecting people. And today, I'm super excited to connect you with Vanessa Dew, Chief Sales Officer and co-founder of Health-Ade Kombucha.
Thank you. So happy to be with you.
Yes. So first things first, of course, I have my Pink Lady Kombucha here. I'm going to take a sip.
Better than me. I wish I had one too.
Yeah. What's your favorite flavor of the moment? I'm sure you have.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's hard to say, but of the moment, I would say it's Health-Ade Plus, our new line, and it's the chill flavor. It's hints of lavender and vanilla.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out. I love the kombucha. A lot of my friends now, they're making kombucha cocktails.
Yep.
With it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we actually just launched a brand new kombucha cocktail mixer line in Whole Foods. So exactly for your friends, because we do the same.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. All right. So follow your gut. That's such a clear and simple phrase, but it's not your typical tagline or mission statement. Can you tell me what follow your gut means to you?
Yeah. Initially when we had this tagline, it was, quite literal. It's follow your gut to gut health with Health-Ade Kombucha and probiotics. But over the years, it's taken on such a deeper meaning. And for me, it really kind of lends to the fact that you're betting on yourself. You have a great internal sense on what should happen and how to move forward. And it's really leaning into that more, trusting your gut, trusting that little feeling inside of yourself that says when something feels right or it doesn't. And at Health-Ade, we're really excited to inspire others to follow their gut and be the healthiest and happiest self.
Amazing. Thank you. Do you feel that follow your gut has taken on a new meaning during these pandemic times, or it's stayed consistent?
Oh, I actually think it's deepened for sure, especially for our consumers. There's so much that I think people want to do, and people are trapped inside their homes. And at the end of the day, the little voices inside your head can kind of creep up, right? When you're just in your own echo chamber. But, I've talked to so many friends where they just had to say, I feel this way, so this is what I'm going to do. And some great examples, I wanted to try photography. So, why not try that now? And it's something that's always been inside of me. So I want to go and give it a try, rather than psyching themselves out about it.
How did you catch the entrepreneurial bug, and how did you land on kombucha?
Yeah. So I would say that the entrepreneurial bug always was within me. I can remember even as a kid trying to sell and make a business out of the flowers and the little pine cones that were in front of my parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had a little sketchbook. One day I would be a fashion designer and have my own fashion line. But didn't bring those businesses to market. But, over time, I also thought I should be a doctor. The right path to take for myself. But where I really discovered this entrepreneurial path was in business school. I knew that in pharmaceuticals, I wasn't living to my own fulfillment. And so that's when I decided to go to business school. And it was in school that I started taking entrepreneurship classes to really rediscover and tackle this curiosity around doing something more fulfilling for myself and building a business. And it was in one of those classes called feasibility that I understood the process, if you will, or the algorithm to evaluating different business ideas. And it was from that I started an entrepreneur club with my best friend. So so it was me and my best friend and her husband, Daina and Justin, where we just got around the dinner table to talk about different business ideas. And it was an exciting time to think about the pains in the marketplace and the product and solutions that could be our business to really meet that pain as a solution. Now, we landed on kombucha not because we thought that was our life's work. The male of our trio, he actually came home one day and he was sentenced to baldness by 30 years old. And we thought, why don't we create a hair loss product? an all-natural hair loss product. And we started looking at what could be good for that. And kombucha anecdotally was said to be great for hair loss. So my partner knew a recipe from her nutritionist days. So we set out to create and make kombucha in hopes of making a hair loss product. In the end, that hair loss product never came to market, but what we did have was amazing kombucha. And it was what we ended up selling at farmers market and why we have Health-Ade today.
Yeah. So I remember hearing an interview of you selling at the Brentwood Farmers Market. So from your first bottle of kombucha from the Brentwood Farmers Market in 2012, I think it was, to now, did you believe that you would be where you are today?
So, that first market, we brought a whopping 60 bottles with us to that market, and 5 cases. If we think about where we are today, we're the fastest growing brand in kombucha. Our capacity is many millions higher than that 60 bottles. We're doing about $115 in retail sales. We're in 40,000 doors. That exact time period, I couldn't fathom this in terms of what we all have today. But what I could fathom is that we had a great product. We had a brand that I knew we were growing with strength. And we always wanted to create a lifestyle brand. And so for me, I knew that we could really put something out there that meant something to people. So in that way, I knew we could be here. But I didn't really knew what it would look like in market specifically.
Right. Wow, you've come a long way. And now I'm thinking about Whole Foods and the cocktail mixers. That's awesome. All right. So these days, there are a lot of people in career transition as a result of the pandemic. Are there specific things that helped you during difficult times in your career?
Yeah, I would say the course of building Health-Ade, there's been countless hard times and so many lows. And I would say leaning on people has been really important for me. So my co-founders have been great in those low times. And I would say when one of us were in a low time, maybe the other person or persons can help lift us up, right? So it's been a balance of that. Second is an executive coach has really helped me, because as great as talking to my co-founders have been, or some confidants, an executive coach has really helped me from an unbiased standpoint tease through the emotion of it all, tease through the real issues, and that's been great. And I guess third, but probably most important, is the knowledge that we're building something great, and also the solace to know that I already have a great foundation in my family to really lean on in the hard times. So both have been really helpful, is just knowing the brand is solid and we have a great sustainable business and my family is there unconditionally.
Yeah, no, that makes such a big difference. That does. So we were talking about this before, but you became a mom for the first time during the pandemic with your son, Oliver. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's adorable. I like the updates on social media.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also too became a mom during the pandemic with my daughter, Liberty Rose. And I have to ask you, how do you balance motherhood and your career going back to work?
Yeah. So, that balance has been tough. The toughest it's been in my professional career. I always envied working moms, but I never quite knew the trade-offs that you have to make at times. And for me, I had to get really clear around my priorities, both in business and personally, because time is such a valuable, is the most valuable thing now. And so it's just some things don't make it on the lifeboat. So I've had to be really clear on what I want to spend my time doing. And then second is, I do have a new baby that is probably more important to me than anything. And so whereas I spent maybe early mornings or working late before, I can't do that anymore because I have to put a baby to bed and I have to be there when Oliver is getting up. And so For me, it's just having those deal breakers that I'm not willing to bend on, and I can make the rest of the business work. And I guess the third piece is lean me on my team. When I was gone for a couple weeks just on maternity, they really stepped up. And I think allowing them and empowering them to do more within the business makes them feel heard. And also it allows me to do and spend time on things that I love, like my baby.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but the New York Times put out this hotline that you could call, and it was anybody in the pandemic could call it and scream, make confessions, air out their grievances. And a majority of them were moms. And they're like, because the responsibility has just, expounded tenfold during the pandemic of what it looks like to be a working mother and taking care of your child. Yeah, it was really funny.
I did it. Wow. I kind of want to look that up again, but I believe it. I mean, during the pandemic, so much pressure is on moms, like to teach, to
Oh,
be
yeah.
the house, the caretaker, work and balance yourself, but you're only within your household and only your household. So that's crazy. There's no outlet.
Yeah, I know. I think it was a Scream hotline. I'll send it to you. It was very funny.
Wow.
um, okay. So were there challenges that you were faced with as a woman CSO?
Yeah, I would say as a female CSO and also a person of color, there's always just been some challenges there. One is, raising money. There's not a lot of people who look like me that's on the other side of the table. And so when you think about them understanding the business, the brand, do they even understand what we're trying to do? And also, do they have confidence in us just as a management team and me as that founding member to deliver on what we're trying to do? And so, and maybe that's just like an indirect feeling that I've had because when you think about the dollars that go to female-run businesses, I want to say it's less than 6%. And so you really have to prove your story. And so I felt like we were always trying to prove ourselves in that way. So that was one challenge. The second challenge is, in my function of CSO is being opposite the table of many customers who also don't look like me. And they're used to kind of this old-fashioned way of doing things, by the book, who they're used to in terms of relationships and, very much the good old boys club a little bit. And so I definitely was breaking that barrier in terms of who they're used to talking to, who they're used to seeing. And I think it has helped for the most part, but at the same time, that perspective wasn't something they're used to, both as a female and as a person of color. And so that added not so much complexity, but I would say uniqueness that they just had to understand a little bit more. And then third is, in terms of the idea of this imposter syndrome, I don't know why females have it more so than men.
Yeah.
And that gets into your head. And I think that's more of a personal challenge that I've had to overcome.
Yeah, that resonates very real for me too, the imposter syndrome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So in the past month, really in the past year, there's been a uptick in hate crimes against Asian communities. And in the past year too, a lot of companies have tried to commit to change as an answer to such events as the murder of Mr. George Floyd. So how do you see your leadership playing a role in creating a more just and diverse, equitable, and inclusive world?
Yeah, I think this is really important. It definitely hits home for me, especially right now. For me as a leader, it's really important to educate and also listen to those at our company and around me, what was going on. I think at least at Health-Ade, there's a lot of questions. People didn't know a lot. And so I think they wanted to listen to what was going on out there. I think they also wanted to understand what are diversity and inclusive efforts that are out there. What does it mean to be inclusive? I think every one individual kind of lives in their own echo chamber, and I don't think there was a lot of saying those words out loud and understanding what was going on with people of color.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one big initiative last year, is getting someone who is outside of the health aid world to really come in and talk about diversity and inclusion as a strong initiative. And for me personally, I've always wanted to give back to the community in different ways, whether it's helping give other entrepreneurs, specifically Asian American entrepreneurs, kind of this insight or sounding board into what I've learned over the years. And so for me, it's about not just making big change, it's making small change that can eventually be this snowball effect into bigger change. Because I'm a big believer that you can make incremental small changes in yourself, in the day, around you, and that starts to have a multiplying effect out there. And that's really kind of what I've been able to do for myself in the change I want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. So you had somebody come in, and like a consultant come in and talk to, that's great.
Yeah. So we had someone come in to talk to Health-Ade. And we have kind of this initiative to really educate and listen around what's going on, and just really trying to be empathetic and sympathetic to those that may be affected by all this unrest when it comes to civil injustice.
Yeah, thank you. Vanessa, it was amazing to have you today, sharing your story. I know it's going to really resonate with a lot of the people that view this, especially in times of pandemic and just everything that's going on. And, we're big fans and customers of Health-Ade.
Thank you so much for having me, and just the support of the brand and me.
Oh, yeah. And you're available in all 50 states. Are you available worldwide as well?
Not worldwide, but I can say North America. We're in Canada and Mexico, and world domination is on the docket.
I was going to say that'll be the next interview once that happens.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. A philosopher said, if you look to others for fulfillment, you'll never truly be fulfilled. Success comes from within. Our guest today is an example of what can happen to your career and your personal life when you follow your gut.